Hey, Michael Church, Crawl Space Ninja, and today I want to share with you some interesting photos and a little description about some foundation problems that I found in a crawl space. As a matter of fact, it was a couple of different crawl spaces. I'm going to put everything together for you and let you see some of the things you need to look for in your own crawl space if you feel like your floors are soft or sagging or something like that. So stay tuned for some great information. Just wanted to go over a little bit with these slides about how you can identify some issues in your crawl space if you got sagging floors or if you feel like you need a little bit of attention and foundation repair in the crawl space. Now, I'm not going to cover the block walls if you got like falling block walls or anything like that, or I'm going to go with more of the wood and go over some, not only what to look for, but also some corrections that don't really work, or maybe some things you should do before attempting to fix the foundation or the floor of your crawl space. So let's take a look at this first one. Obviously, rotting rim joist is one of those things that gets majorly overlooked, and most of the time this happens because you have a situation where the water is coming in from the outside. We see this a lot with flashing issues from the deck. So if you have a deck or something like that attached to the house, especially if you had it built after the home was built. So if you had someone add a deck on or remove and replace a deck or something like that, make sure you go underneath and remove the insulation around where that deck is attached to the house, and look for this sort of thing. If you've got issues up here and here, this real black that you're seeing is evidence of moisture coming in from the outside. So make sure you check those out, because once this rim joist rots or this sill plate rots, you've got some major outside wall foundation problems. So check for those things right there. The other thing you want to look at is where your pillars, as you can see, whenever they were building this home, they did not put the pillar in the right spot. So and then over here, they did not put anything underneath this one as well. And or maybe they disconnected it because it looks like they had a lot of plumbing coming through here. So if you see joints like this, see how this is lower than this? So from this side over inside the house is going to have some foundation problems. And they tried to shim it up, but you can see that shim's already broke. Major issue there. And then also here. So if you see something like this, a good post jack could help level this up over on this side. But you want to take a look at these sort of things inside the crawl space where the main floor beam is going through. Check the joints on both sides of the main floor beam to make sure that they line up with the pillars that they have installed. Or if you see a joint like this where you have a couple of different pieces of joists coming together, make sure there's some support under here. This is another thing we see quite often. The reason why I'm going to show you this is because obviously they had post jacks installed, but they put these on cap blocks, and you can actually see not only is it on cap block, but it's on unlevel ground, and it's just not installed very well. So here's a good example of that. And then this one, they poured a footer, which is great. But they installed the post jack on top of a piece of wood that's not pressure treated, and I doubt if this wood is pressure treated either. So it could be, but it's kind of hard to tell. It's so old, and these have rusted up, so you can't even adjust them anymore. So if you're going to use post jacks, make sure that they are installed on a poured footer, or pressure treated wood is used as on top of the footer, which I don't know why you would put wood down on top of the footer. The footer's good enough without the wood, so I would just eliminate this wood altogether. Kind of hard to see, but this wood is already deteriorated. Plus, when I moved the plastic back, this nasty piece of wood was touching it, so the mold probably just transferred right over. All right, this is something else I want you to be mindful of. This is wood rot fungus, which is starting to deteriorate this entire crawl space. The pillar looks to be okay and all that sort of thing, but this is eating the wood from the inside out. As you can see, if you go down there and you see these little what I call striations in the wood, this is a type of wood rot fungus. Some people call it gray rot, or there's even white rot fungus, different things like that. There's brown rot. So anyway, anything where you see a lot of heavy fungal growth on your joists in this kind of pattern, typically, first of all, you had a huge humidity problem in the past, which this ought to be a red flag. But all of this is eating the wood away from the inside out, and may need all of this wood either what we call scabbed or even replaced. And when we do that, we try to use pressure treated wood if we're going to have to replace this. All right, here's another one that we see often. This is looks like some form of OSB or particle board used as a shim. They used a pretty good piece of wood here and here, but then they used this cheap shim here. They used this shim here, which again could be pressure treated, but this was a house that we had some foundation issues. And then obviously you can see here they used another possible problem shim. Either the shim is given way or the joist is given way. This particular one, actually, it's kind of hard to tell from this picture, but this was a manufactured joist and it broke. So this was from a major water issue that they did not disclose during the sale of the house. And also this was a house that they brought in and moved and set on top of a foundation, and they used these shims to put it on top of the foundation. So want to look out for these things as well. Lastly, this will be the last thing I cover. A couple different things. Number one, this right here isn't even touching. So not sure what that's all about, but if you're seeing daylight through this sort of thing, then you've got a major issue going on. So this one, this pillar wasn't even built up tall enough. The other thing I don't like is whenever they use 4x4 studs, again, on top of a cap block, but there's no adjusting these at all. You either got to get them right or you got to lift the house up and lower them down or whatever. But this is kind of an ineffective way. I see this a lot. We like to use post jacks, and here's another issue we see a lot, is these are post jacks were installed on a piece of wood. Again, shifted and obviously fell, as you can see. But one of the things you want to make sure of before you hire anybody to do any type of foundation work is all of the crawl space, wood, and humidity needs to be controlled, because they could have put this in the summertime, right? And all this wood is moist. And then in the winter, as this wood dried out, these guys lost their integrity because they weren't adjusted. They were adjusted for when the wood was wet, but when the wood dries, the wood shrinks, and then you lose your abilities here. So make sure whenever you do any kind of foundation work, make sure you do it in a dry crawl space and you keep that crawl space dry year round, or you may see some raising and lowering of the subfloor. And then again here, they put this in a wet crawl space. So if the crawl space dries, these guys could just topple over. There's nothing really, you can't adjust them. If they didn't cut them right, they just didn't cut them right. So anyway, I hope this helps identify some of the crawl space issues we find for foundation. Make sure if you're going to hire somebody to do it, you want them to pour the footer, use post jacks as support, and then also make sure the crawl space is dry. So my name is Michael Church with Crawl Space Ninja. I hope you make it a happy and blessed day. Thanks for watching. See you later.